This is Reimagining Higher Education, your go-to podcast with remarkable education leaders sharing personal stories from their experience in and around the sector, including reflection and hope for progress in the sector. With your host, Professor Judyth Sachs, former PVC Learning and Teaching at the University of Sydney, Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Provost at Macquarie University, and Special Advisor in Higher Education at KPMG, and now Chief Academic Officer at Studiosity. Welcome.
Today I have the pleasure of talking to Professor Abtar Kaur, who is Professor of Innovative Digital Technology Asia at the Pacific University of Technology and Innovation in Malaysia. But your story actually starts quite a long time back. So how did you get to be a Professor of Innovative Digital Learning? Because that means that you are very tech savvy. You've got an extraordinary set of experiences behind you. So can you tell us your story about how you got to be where you are now?
Thank you, Prof Judyth. So certainly it's a pleasure today to be speaking to you and the greater audience. My journey, as you have mentioned, started very long ago. I think it actually started when I was doing my diploma in education, and I was always, moving towards the tech areas of teaching and learning. And I started early, actually. I started, in our early days, we have those slides, and then there was no voice with the slides. So I incorporated voice into the slides as a project, and then I moved on. From there, I moved on to do my master's in instructional design and technology at Syracuse University in the US. And then the rest of the journey was, this is my forte. I came back from the US and I was attached to teacher training institutes, and then I was at the University of Malaya, and then from the University of Malaya, the huge jump was setting up the Open University Malaysia. That was when I think the true test of technology in education was tested in a way. So the joy was to be the pioneers in setting up the Open University Malaysia. And also, I think one of the projects that I started was setting up the Center for Instructional Design and Technology at the university, and subsequently launching the first fully online master's program in instructional design and technology in the year 2009. So I think this was a good build up in terms of my academic journeys. And I went on to then lead the School of E-Education in Dubai at Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University. There also we scored quite a few achievements. One of the bigger achievements was to have a UNESCO project, a funded project from UNESCO, to train teachers in 22 Arab states, and how we use blended technologies to do that. Typically, I'm known for pioneer in instructional design and technology. And I feel that I'm always a leader in the classroom. In terms of I like to lead, in terms of I like to share with my students what are some of the innovative approaches. So my journeys have taken me quite far and wide, I would say. Currently, I'm also holding the UNESCO chair for innovative uses of technologies in teaching and learning. And also, we are very involved with the Commonwealth of Learning. We do a lot of training for participants from South countries, And apart from that, the big thing that is happening at the Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation was the setting up of the Digital Learning Hub. And the main idea behind the Digital Learning Hub is to help the university academics to transform their teaching and learning by incorporating intelligently. Technologies are there; they have always been there, but I think the word intelligent meaning more effective and efficient use of technology, so that we get that a little bit more impact with our students in terms of the knowledge. So under the UNESCO chair at APU, this is the biggest score we have made. Is we dived into generative AI 2.5 years ago. The minute it was announced in November of 2022, we went straight into it. We felt, and I personally, from my PhD findings, that was one of my recommendations, that teachers, especially in Malaysia, we have big classrooms, and if we want to use technology efficiently with our students, we needed some kind of support. And I always felt that the AI support has to be there for teachers. Teachers, I don't know, when I did my experiment, I felt I was always exhausted towards the end of the day. How would we expect teachers to want to do this? It's a lot of work. So I always felt AI was something that could assist, like AI agents, could assist teachers in reaching their goals in teaching and learning in a better manner, in a better way. So basically, when generative AI came on board, we drove it quite passionately. So to date, we have trained close to 7,000 participants and in close to 20 countries on how to incorporate generative AI into teaching and learning, into research, into academic writing, and into healthcare. For the healthcare part, we have UNESCO chair partner from Singapore, and he's a hand surgeon, plus he's also an educationist. He's done his PhD and master's in education. So as of now, Prof Judyth, we are moving on from the basic of generative AI. In a week's time, we are going to move on to higher levels of using generative AI in teaching and learning. So in that sense, I see that I've been able to lead from my first days of incorporating voice into slides to the use of generative AI in teaching and learning. Now, it's not only that teaching and learning. We are also training our administrative staff, our students, teachers, and anybody at large. Anyone who's interested to know what this generative AI is. We are reaching out, and people are reaching into us as well. I wonder if that's sufficient for an introduction.
You've been busy. Look, there are a couple of things I'd like to pick up in terms of what you've said. You're talking about training teachers and training students. Let's actually unpack that a bit. What have been the big challenges in training teachers? And when you say teachers, I'm assuming you're talking about university teachers, not school teachers.
Okay, so we actually do both university as well as school teachers. In fact, our first big projects were with the school teachers. And we actually ventured into interior or rural areas in Malaysia to test, the technology to see whether that was posing any challenges to the teachers. Fortunately for us, the places that we went on the Borneo Island, we went to the east coast of Malaysia, and the teachers they were equally excited to know, because in Malaysia, one thing, when generative AI came on board, the Malaysian Qualification Agency also immediately embraced it. So so the word was already out, you know, and even the Prime Minister launched a huge AI in education session, you know. So in that sense, in terms of accepting and how to use generative AI, it was not so difficult for us. And even for the technology, seems like we were able to connect to the internet quite well, and there were always computers. So I think we have come quite a long way, and we didn't have that many challenges. But we organized an AI summit last year at Asia Pacific University for ASEAN countries.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a huge challenge from a couple of ASEAN countries. One of the biggest challenges we noted in Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia, parts of Thailand, parts of Indonesia were the technology. So in terms of accepting the new innovations, we didn't have a problem, but we had an issue with technology. We had an issue with ethical use of generative AI. That was always the big issue on, you know, how ethical it is to use generative AI and stuff like that. So these were the biggest two challenges that teachers faced. One was even the university lecturers, they had an issue with the ethical use of generative AI. But for the other ASEAN countries, they also have a technological infrastructure issue. Now, our main contention was generative AI was leveling the field a bit.
In what way was it doing that?
So generally in Asia, you might know, Judith, that a lot of the professors, we don't have research assistants, graduate assistants, you know. So I think we work so hard all the time, the professors, because, you know, we have to do the work of the graduate assistant, the research assistant. So when generative AI came on board, for me, I felt that even for my own personal work, I felt I was able to rely on generative AI quite a bit, you know, so that, you know, generative was like a thought leader for me, like a research assistant for me. In many ways, generative AI played that role. And it was an important role for me because I'm a very collaborative person. I work collaboratively with different teams, and I'm always depending on somebody to verify, to give me, you know, to feedback, to see whether something is going along the right way. And I felt when I used generative AI, it did what another human would do. And it's 24/7, and, you know, it's anytime, and it's just able to access so much and give back so fast. So for me, that was one level of the leveling the playing field. But then we also felt that it didn't actually level the playing field because of the challenges in terms of computer hardware, you know, connections, connecting to the internet, and also payments. Because if you want a better, a higher and more efficient level of software, then you need to pay. So currently we are paying about USD 20 for a monthly, you know, to get higher versions of the generative AI. So again, that seems to be an issue all along when technology innovations are. There's always something else that's happening that doesn't allow for us to bridge the gap so well or so efficiently.
I absolutely agree and understand the productivity issue. You know, you can get stuff done that suits you, and at a much quicker rate. And I've just recently used ChatGPT to give me a broader perspective around curriculum design, innovative curriculum design. But one of the things that we keep coming back to is, and you used it as well, ethical AI. So how do we actually in the sort of desire to get stuff done, which we all, and being a busy person with a huge workload, we want to get stuff done. But at the same time, we actually have to remember to stop and ask ourselves the question, is this ethical? And what do I need to do to ensure that my practice and the behavior of my students is ethical? So do you want to just unpack that a little bit?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one in terms of, I think we can only learn when we have gone through the motions and we are able to share it. Yeah. Okay. So the first things first, at least at Asia Pacific University, what we did was we started looking at policies and guidelines and stuff like that. So we got that up front very early in the day, guidelines for students on dishonesty and ethical use. And so it actually mimicked the ready guidelines that were already there in academic honesty. Yeah, so we just upped it a little and then incorporate use of AI. We encourage use of AI at APU, at the Asia Pacific University. So then there were a set of guidelines. Then the next big thing we did was we did training. We train our students, we train our professors, and we went through the guidelines with them and explained guidelines to them so that they understand what needs to be done. Now, in our training, especially for curriculum, for design of curriculum, for creating resources, for research, at any one point, we were using about minimum 3 softwares. We were using ChatGPT, we were using SciSpace, and we were using some other that depending on the content area of the research. Yeah, so that the purpose of the SciSpace was to allow the academicians or the researchers to know that, look, it is not just putting some questions to ChatGPT, some prompts, and then just using it. So there was a process of verification. How do you verify your sources, and going beyond. So that was one thing that we did in terms of the ethical use of ChatGPT. So that, and we were always reminding our participants that in the final analysis, they need to verify whatever they have gotten through their process with the softwares that they were using, and that they can't just take it and use it in whatever way they want to, but there is a huge human verification process that needs to go. So that is also incorporated into our training process. So normally we take a whole day, like 6 to 8 hours to do one training, say for AI in research. And that is just coming up with the problem statements, and it's just that portion of it, not collecting any data. So that is when we take them through the motions, and then we make them get into deeper thinking processes, because it's quite easy to bypass the thinking process, and it's quite easy to give in to Gen AI. If we do not train people in that manner, they can just do it. So in that sense, we did actually a lot more training for graduate students and for professors, but our undergraduate students, we still do have a lot of problems in terms of ethical use of AI for the undergraduate students. So what is going to happen next is we are going to conduct more workshops on how lecturers can incorporate the ethical use within their day-to-day teaching. That's our next level that we are going, how they can do that. And we actually have already invited one professor from Michigan State University, because he ran that workshop, and it was a very powerful workshop in terms of how to design ethics and how to take care of ethics while you are designing your day-to-day teaching. So we are going to do that. That's one thing. And the next thing that the university is also embarking on is coming up with the bigger strategic agenda for incorporating in use of generative AI. We have started some discussions. So we're also going to have people from different fields, like lawyers and different fields, to come into the committees so that we can get better advice from them. I mean, we have our own professors here who are in these fields. Yeah. So we are coming up with a bigger strategic plan on how to have AI immersed into many more processes within the university. We're also having another big challenge, Judith, is grading of our papers, of our assessment papers. We have too many students sometimes. Now, sometimes we have more than 500 to 600 to 700 students. So the grading process is an area that we felt AI can assist us. But this is just AI assisted grading. It's not AI is going to take over the whole grading process. So for that, for the last 8 months, we have already started building it within the university and incorporated into our learning management system. So this is a very guarded one. It's something that we are very aware that we cannot put so much into the normal available AI systems. So we created one that is more for the university.
So what I'm hearing, I just would like to play something back to you. Your approach has been a whole of university approach towards integrating AI into systems and processes, supported by comprehensive training, but also abutted by a policy framework that actually underlines integrity, quality, and student learning. Have I captured?
You captured it so well. Wow. Yeah.
So what I'm interested in understanding, I'm interested in change, and this in universities has required change both in terms of structures, in terms of resources, how you pay for this stuff, but also in terms of behaviors of academics and students. So where do you start? If you're going into a developing country with this sort of mandate to, we're going to help you incorporate AI into your programs and your delivery, where do you start?
Again, I think this question needs to be unpacked. So I start with Asia Pacific University first. So at our university, we started at the chancellery. I mean, our university has got the C-suite. We are huge, yeah. And this was because most of us are into technology and innovation here. So for us, it was easy to start off, at lower levels, at this chancellery level. And our university is again unique, yeah. But I think in a typical university, if the analysis shows that the vice chancellor's team and the deans and the work provosts, if they are not into it yet, or they have not started yet, so I would think that we would have to start with them, and take it off from there, because it's not only the buy-in. I think when the top management gives the support and also endorses new innovations, then it is it is much easier for the rest of the community in the university to accept it, and then they can be the big voice there, to champion it as well. So I would start with the top management team, and then from there take it off again. But at Asia Pacific University, of course, we do share with our CEO and we do share with the C-suite, but they pretty much left it to us, to the digital learning hub, which was driving the transformation. So we were quite lucky, and that was the reason we were able to move very fast in terms of coming up with guidelines, policies, training materials, and stuff like that, and reaching so many people in such a short space. Recently, we had trained 60 participants from 11 African countries on how to incorporate generative AI into blended learning for TVET. So these are the kind of things that allow us to do it, because we already have a long history of implementing, wetting our hands, and learning from our mistakes. Yeah.
So the title of this series is Reimagining Higher Education. Imagine we're having a conversation in 5 years' time. What do you think the landscape will look like in terms of student learning and how learning is designed and delivered?
I think the biggest change 5 years from now in student learning will be how they are assessed. Assessment methods have to change so much. I cannot imagine what it will be actually. For now, we are going to move more towards authentic assessments that include Survivor and stuff like that. So I think in 5 years' time, if universities move in tandem, we could see a huge change in terms of the whole philosophy of assessment. And it could even entail the full philosophy of learning. If I were to make a recommendation, I would say that universities work very, very closely with industry. Create an ecosystem where students spend more time in the industry, and then coming back to the university, just to unpack their learning in the industry. I think learning at the workplace, learning on the go, for me, will be a more important process for the development than getting professors to profess and share, because as of now, we already are getting feedback from our students that, look, I can get this on my own. So we probably need to create a different learning environment. And I think there are already many examples of such learning environments. And probably it's just taking the leap, maybe, or making that big change. At one point, we were thinking the universities should convert itself into an industry. Students come and work in the university and learn at the same time. So I think there could be many possibilities if it is embraced. If there is a passion to change and to embrace what is coming. So I would see it in that way. I would see that is a huge pedagogical transformation that needs to take place. Pedagogically, we are still like what happened in the 1920s. I don't think we have had much change. It's just using technology, that's all. But classrooms have not changed. Universities have not changed much. So the pedagogical transformation is going to be a huge experiment if any university start that. And I think it will be a successful one.
You talked when we were talking earlier about the importance of training. So will you have to train students to be different kinds of learners in the same way you'll have to train academics to be different kinds of pedagogues, teachers?
Mm-hmm.
And what would that training look like?
Yeah, if we are talking again, this is something I'm thinking on the spot. Probably if the curriculum is transformed, then the industry, the connection to the industry curriculum, then I think that the training on the ground will take over that training process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it won't be as much because professors are the industry in the university.
Mm-hmm.
Now, students need to see a different view of that industry by being immersed into the industry, into that industry. So it will depend on how this is envisioned by a team. Yeah, but generally nobody likes to be sitting in the classroom and being trained anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think these days the students, they get I think that the fact that you sit and listen, or you sit in classrooms and even collaborate with your friends, is no more something that excites them too much. If I have a chance, I would take my students, out to the industry. If I'm training teachers, so I would rather they be in the schools. More of a problem-based learning kind of a thing, where they go to the schools, they see what is the problem, and then they come back and they unpack it. Meaning more time out in the industry and less time in the university. And the university time is used more for other activities like, other co-curricular activities, but impactful co-curricular activities. Because anyway, our students are quite used to online learning, and they kind of want that.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of want that after the pandemic. I think a lot of them saw that learning can happen anywhere.
Indeed. And I just want to unpack a little bit that sort of the student experience. You mentioned about co-curricular activities, working with industry. So if I was going to be a student in 5 years' time, what could I expect?
Coming to university is less time in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
more time outside the classroom. The more time outside the classroom will probably be organizing events. They organize an event for the community, get more involved in the community. So your time spent will be more in terms of planning, strategizing with your peers to do something. The learning process will aid you to do some of those things. Some of the projects you work around will be the projects that are related to your content area. And apart from that, spending more time in the industry. So classroom time probably will be shortened for me in terms of sitting in the classroom, but more time spent outside the classroom and more time spent in the industry. I am thinking that could be something that might attract students to continue learning because I'm a big advocate for work and learn at the same time. I'm a huge advocate for that. I feel if you work and you study at the same time, the impact is more on your total development.
So I've got two more questions to ask. One is, what skills will graduates have when they graduate from universities, having completed programs that really are the foundational base is AI, GAI?
I do believe that if there is a change in the assessment methods, if there is a change in terms of what is expected from the students vis-a-vis the use of generative AI. See, one of the things that we are also encouraging our professors is to allow students to question generative AI. So we are teaching them different methods, right? When generative AI gives you an answer, try to probe further, try to question further, try to tell generative AI, I don't believe this is a good answer. So we are kind of building different skill sets now. The questioning skill set, yeah. The skill set that allow you to ask a question without fear. Yeah, so hopefully we are now building people who are more resilient because you are interacting with an environment that allows you to be yourself, an environment that allows you to challenge. So, these are some of the things that we train as well here at the Asia Pacific University. Allow your students to share their prompts with you so that you know what their thinking process is. Yeah. So we do believe that if this goes on, then the students will be, because generally Asian students, they don't speak up that much. So we want them to be able to now, with a Viva built into the assessment, because most assessment systems don't have a Viva built in. So now with a Viva built in, how are you, going to present your case after you have used generative AI? So hopefully they will become more resilient people. When they go out there, they will question more and they will contribute more as well. Not just question, but come up with solutions as well. Maybe use generative AI to support them in their endeavors, like if they have a project to work on, the questioning process can come in together and they can bring it to the table. So hopefully, we don't know, because this is a huge experiment. I mean, we are promoting it, so we know what to expect, what we can do. But the challenge now is to check and balance whether it's happening in the field or not, So, but again, as we said at Asia Pacific University, we kind of have a system already that is looking into all these aspects. So we do hope that eventually we will be able to make that difference in our students. Yeah.
So just reframing it into slightly different words, I like alliteration. And so what I'm hearing you say, you want students to be curious, to actually go and ask questions. You want to be courageous so that they ask those hard questions, but you also want them to be competent so that they can apply that knowledge and indicate that they understand it. Is that the sort of graduate that you want?
Yes. And also, I think I don't know how I think the word resilience I used is important because sometimes students give up very easily. Students these days, so that if we allow them to be curious, confident, and be experimental in their ways, and you have this constant support from AI that doesn't give up on you, keep on encouraging you, doesn't scold you. You can scold AI, and hopefully it builds your. I think building confidence is very important. Then it builds that, and you become more resilient as you have more and more confidence. Yes, yeah, I would say that.
And on that very bright future that's student-focused, I'd like to thank you for giving me time this afternoon to talk about AI, but also in particular to get the perspective of somebody whose life is actually embedded in developing competence, capability, courageousness in the delivery of AI. So thank you very much, Professor, and I hope the rest of your day is as energetic and energized as my morning has been with you.
Thank you, Judith.
You have been listening to Studiosity's podcast, Reimagining Higher Education, candid conversations within higher education, sharing stories of leadership, change, and best practice in teaching and learning. Visit studiosity.com.